Welcome back, everybody. Clint here today, excited to introduce episode 3 of the AR-15 series, which this one has been widely requested, to my surprise, quite frankly. But also that's good. That means you guys are going to be learning to take care and maintain your firearm, because today is all about cleaning and maintenance of your AR style rifle. Before we go any further, I just want to go ahead and give a big thanks to all the supporters of the channel. That includes all of you watching, all of you liking, commenting, and sharing, especially includes our monthly members of the channel and my friends over at Monadnock Firearms, who have been super generous and very supportive of the channel as well. Thank you guys so much. An additional big shout out to my friends over at Otis Technology, Smart Gun Care, who just provide and offer so much fabulous cleaning and maintenance products for your, just about every firearm. And the same company I get issued in the Marine Corps, and pretty much actually military-wide, Otis Technology, Otis Defense, provides all the cleaning and maintenance needs, even for big bore stuff like, howitzers and things, which is pretty cool if you ask me. All right, cool. With all that being said, again, thanks Otis Technology. Let's go ahead and, I need a gun to clean, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the one that I think is dirtiest right now, and that's probably my Daniel Defense DD M4A1 R3, right? Now, you might be wondering, why is it not the Mark 18 or my Mark 12 that you guys see me all over social media shooting all the time? This one, like the other two, I shoot mostly suppressed, but I recently decided to throw it in the dirt and prove that an AR can still run reliably, even if it got dirty. How about that?
Oh no, your rifle's dirty, Clint. ARs can't run with the dust cover open and in the sand. Oh, crap. What are you gonna do, bro? Jesus. Is this thing even charged? No, let's see, is it gonna run? Holy crap, it works.
So I will be breaking down, disassembling, and clearing this rifle. But before we move forward, when it comes to disassembly of your firearm, step 1, you want to make sure your gun is clear and rendered safe. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, finger straighten off the trigger. I'm just going to go ahead and pull the charging handle back. I can visually inspect that there's nothing in the chamber except a whole lot of carbon buildup. That's going to be fun. And did you hear that, by the way? You might not be able to hear some of the grittiness from the sand and stuff that's all over this thing, but it's present, right? So there you go. Cool, gun is clear. Now I want to go ahead and disassemble the gun. First thing, after you make sure that it's clear, you got these takedown pins on the AR platform. You got one up front, your front takedown pin, and run on the rear of the lower receiver, your rear takedown pin right here. Cool. Now, if your rifle is stiff, these ones I can pop out pretty easily and disassemble, but if your rifle is stiff, you can take something like a punch, and here I have my Otis gunsmithing punch set. I typically go for the 5/32. I can just take this and apply pressure right here. And you'll see how I do that. I just do that. Goes all the way through. Easy enough. The rear, same thing, all the way through, and now they're separated. How about that? Upper and lower are now separate, and let's just go ahead and take a look internally, and let's just see. And something I know I have to do, once I'm done using something, put it away immediately, because the moment I start leaving it on the desk, it's gonna clutter, it's gonna drive me crazy, and I'll probably eventually lose it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put it away. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the different components that we have in both the upper and lower receiver. Starting with the lower receiver, obviously this holds your grip, your trigger assembly, your buffer assembly as well, and of course the controls, being the safety, the bolt release, and the magazine release, right? Here, as again, you can, man, this thing's dirty. You can see just that carbon buildup that is on the buffer right back here. The buffer spring is withheld in the buffer tube. If you look down into the actual the hammer and where the trigger assembly is, there's going to be all sorts of nastiness up in there as well. Now, typically, I don't do a complete breakdown of the lower receiver and remove the entire trigger assembly for cleaning. Usually, I just get some Q-tips or whatever might be available to me, and I just kind of clean around in there. It's not until I start noticing some grit and some buildup that I actually disassemble the trigger assembly completely, which, honestly, it's fine for today. If you'd like to see a more intimate breakdown of the lower receiver, let me know, but I'm sure we'll get into builds and stuff like that, and we can show that at a later time anyway. All right, cool. What about the upper receiver? Upper receiver. This is going to hold your gas system, as I already talked about before, your gas block, which is right underneath here under the rail, gas tube. And then coming on back is the part that we're going to be focusing on today when it comes to cleaning. And also your barrel, which, you know, is kind of important. And we will be cleaning as well with a product called the Ripcord that Otis offers. All right, now what you're going to notice is I'm going to pull back on the charging handle. The dust cover is going to fall because I'm pulling back on the bolt carrier as well, in the entire bolt carrier group. And there's that dirty little sucker, all right? Charging handle follows that. You'll notice the charging handle that I like to use on pretty much most, if not all my ARs, is the Geisley Super charging handle. This is a, oh boy. Can you tell how dirty it is, by the way? Yeah, how about we flip it on where the gas is actually coming back into it? That's all supposed to be that FDE-ish color. It is not. After today, it will be. All right, good. Let's just go ahead and set the upper receiver aside now as well. Now let's go ahead and disassemble the bolt carrier here. If the retaining pin for your firing pin is a little deep in there, you can take, well, the tip of your fingernail. I'm able to grab that okay. But let's say if it's in there, you just can't get a good grab on it. You can take your standard issue bayonet and use just the tip to reach that on in there and just apply a little pressure to pull that guy out. Leverage, am I right? Now, something I always struggle with is maintaining those small parts. So having a brightly colored surface, I can kind of show you that. A little bit of contrast, like put small parts here on the Otis mat. Thank you, Otis, for thinking about that. All right, now let's go ahead and remove the firing pin. There it is. Yeah, that's, wow. Oh boy. Oh boy. Today's gonna be, I probably should have worn not one of my nice shirts. There you go. Yeah, firing pin. Yep, that should all be a much lighter color. Yeah, we're gonna be going over that too. All right, we can go to remove. There we go. All right, now we can go ahead and remove this little guy. You can also see, super dirty. The bolt itself. Oh my God. Okay, now, for when it's super heavily coated like this, while I'm usually cleaning the bolt carrier and other components, what I like to do is take these small parts, put them in a tub, and let them soak in some CLP or whatever your preferred cleaning oil might be. Let's do that. So grabbing one of the containers that one of the Otis cleaning kits came in is pretty much perfect for what I'm going to be needing it for today. Now what I like to do, like I said before, taking my small parts and components, if they're really just nasty, just go ahead and throw them all in here. Grab, I've got the 085 all-in-one cleaning here, and then I'm just going to soak it on these different components, as you see right here. All right. Yeah, really nasty stuff. I'm just going to let that just go ahead and soak, sit on each one. Like I said, I am very liberally applying this, but naturally I'm going to be wiping it all off. That's why I keep a nice little decent microfiber nearby. All right, cool. Go ahead and set that off to the side, and I'm just going to let these parts and pieces here just go ahead and soak for a little bit while I start getting into the nitty-gritty with this guy. Now, something that's really cool that comes in the AR cleaning pack is, well, pretty much everything that you need for today. We've got this nifty little tool, which we'll get into here in just a moment when we start getting into the upper receiver. But this thing is great. It's a star chamber cleaning tool, and use that, scrapes carbon and metal. And then you've got these little pads that you switch out the metal scraper from, and that'll get in there and really make it nice and clean. So you can use the chamber brush to start breaking those pieces apart. Get in there to get those hard moving product, or the things that aren't moving. You can get that in there, and then this to really offer that polish, I guess you could say. Then of course the ripcord for 556 has, it's pretty much everything you need. Pull that straight through, and that's going to give you a nice clean barrel. But what I really want to get into is the bone tool. The bone tool is pretty neat. This will allow me to actually scrape the metal off of the bolt carrier, and the firing pin, which is all pretty nifty if you ask me. So we'll start off. Obviously, I want to get it nice and in here, and I'm just going to go and start rotating. And that's going to start breaking up a lot of that nastiness that's in there. Yeah, like I said, nastiness. All right, so that's going to get that off of what makes contact with the bolt. Nice. Very good. I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit of this stuff in there as well, and just start working that out. The other thing I like to do, again, take your rag, and what I like to do typically is start twisting that and pushing that on through. Okay. Much better. All right, great. Now, obviously, we still have a lot to go through on the internals here, so I'm definitely going to be getting to all of that. Thankfully, this little handy brush is included. So again, lubricating with the all-in-one CLP here on the internals, and right where, again, we have any metal-to-metal contact. All that is very important. All right. Jesus. Oh, that's so bad. I should definitely clean my guns more often. Yeah, let's break it up some with the brush. You can use either side on the brush. Sometimes it's just easier to use the precision scrubber. You've got the large surface area scrubber that you can also use, but it will bend the bristles a little bit. And so just to prolong the life of the brush itself, I usually just use the precision scrubber, if you will. But it doesn't really matter. These things are pretty cheap anyway, and you can buy them in bulk, so scrub away. Okay, once you get that pretty thoroughly wiped down, go ahead and grab your rag and just go ahead and get a lot of that excess off of there. Yeah, it's starting to see some of the carbon buildup and everything on the smaller components is starting to kind of fall off after soaking it with this stuff, so that's nice. All right, looking much better here. Okay, same thing I did earlier when coming through on this side with the rag. I'm also going to come through, and you don't have to use a microfiber. I like using a microfiber just because they absorb a little bit more than some of the cheaper rags out there, and on top of that, they're microfiber. They're not as harsh on the finish as, you know, other rags. Does it really matter? I mean, we're talking about small explosions taking place inside of some of these components. It's fine. But microfiber is what I had laying around. Again, you can buy these in bulk pretty cheap also, so who cares? Now you'll notice I just do this little twisting method, and I just get it up in there. I just kind of make sure I just keep applying pressure and rotating until it gets all the way up into the cavity there, the opening. And I just want to do a couple more rotations. There we go. It's nice what you can do with the microfiber and quality cleaning products, right? Very cool. And then as far as the bolt carrier goes, other than just getting into those nicks and crannies, of course, the rails that's going to be riding on the actual lower receiver and everything, I just want to make sure that, and then of course where it interfaces with the forward assist, in case you ever want to use it, you're going to make sure it's nice and clean and no debris there, all right? And like I said, you can get in there with the brush again in case anything got missed. And like I said, use this stuff liberally. Get in there and really soak it. You know, you're not going to hurt anything by over cleaning or lubricating. All right. All right, perfect. Yep. A lot of buildup on there, right? It's okay. That means you're at least shooting your gun, which you should be doing. Or running drills or practicing with it. Just, you know, mag dumping into trash might be fun, but it's a waste of money and ammo. And time. Get out there, run some drills. Hit a target. It's even better if you miss a target, because then you know where to start slowing down and start looking for improvement, am I right? Okay. Alright. I think we all pretty much get the point here as far as where it comes. You want to make sure that you have lubrication applied to anywhere there might be metal on metal contact. Again, where the forward assist is, I'm not going to focus a whole lot there, but sure, why not, right? Additionally, right underneath here on either side. There you go. And just kind of rub that in right along. No problem there. All right. Make sure I clean that little groove out. Okay. And then right in here. Again, that's where your firing pin goes. So I'd like for that to be nice and lubricated as well. I want my firing pin not to be getting caught up on anything, right? I want it to be nice and smooth in there for it and clean. Great. And when it comes to the bolt carrier, honestly, guys, I don't think you can apply too much lubricant. So have at it, all right? That's much better. There we go. Perfect. Now we're looking good. Okay, pretty much done with the bolt carrier at this point. Oh, right where the little cotter pin goes to retain the firing pin. Yeah, I'll just, clean that out a little bit too. Again, you got to remember gases travel all throughout this thing. Right through here. You've got gases traveling through here. You can take a Q-tip and clean this out, which probably is not a bad idea. Actually, I've got these pipe cleaners that do a pretty good job as well. You can get in there. Okay. Good enough for me. Go ahead and set that off to the side. And let's carry on here. Move this as well. Let's go ahead and take a look now at the charging handle while I've got it out. And like I said, the coloration on this should be all like this color, not, black and carbon filled. So let's go ahead and same thing. I'm going to go ahead and lubricate this guy up and just start wiping away all of that buildup. There we go. It's just so gritty. Like, yeah. Even taking like a, if you've got a air compressor, after you get it all cleaned up and just kind of blowing out those little spots that, again, a regular charging handle probably won't have as many crevices. This is ambidextrous, so you've got more parts at the end of the day. But a regular A2 charging handle, I probably don't even own one of those pieces of crap, so oh well. All right. And just wiping it down, Again, I'm going to go ahead and take precision brush, add a little bit more of this, start getting down right into the opening where the gas tube goes through, right in here. Okay. Let's see if I can show that a little bit better for you guys. See that opening at the front of the charging handle? When it's like this, it'll grab the bolt carrier and the gas tube goes right through there. In fact, it looks like something like that right there, and that's pretty much, how it sits. Cool. Alright, grab that brush again, and just really start hitting that thing up. Anywhere and everywhere I see coloration that doesn't belong. Now, if you have a black charging handle, it might be a little difficult to kind of pinpoint where you have some dirty areas. That's okay, just, clean the whole freaking thing. Like you should. Alright. I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not too concerned about the charging handle. It's, as long as it's, pretty well lubricated, you'll be alright. Again, you can take one of these pipe cleaners, and you can even fold it so you get a little bit more girth, and just start rubbing that guy back and forth. And just make sure you're trying to get as much of that carbon as possible out of there. Pipe cleaners are great for this dirty work. So far so good. Wipe it down one more time. Now this is probably the residue from my hands that are going to be showing up mostly on this guy. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Alright. There we go. Yeah, and then just a little bit built up back here, some still. Good. Much, much better. There. Now we've actually got a much cleaner Charging handle. Look a little bit different? Yeah, should. Once you're satisfied with that, you can choose to, coat it in some more, lubricant if you want to. I'll just do it a little bit later. Go ahead and set that off to the side. Before we start on the lower receiver, let's go ahead and take out these, oh boy, probably the dirtiest parts. They've been soaking in here now for a little bit, and as you can tell, they're pretty gross. So let's just start with the easiest. The little cotter pin that retains the firing pin. And there's not much you really need to do here other than just oil it and wipe it down. All right. Cool. Once I stop getting carbon buildup on my hands, or my, all right, cool. Clean enough for me. Like I said, don't overthink it, just go for it. You guys don't need to worry about it getting, perfectly polished or anything like that. Let's go and start next with the firing pin, because this might take a minute, actually. We will see, though. Start wiping down some of this stuff. Again, just letting it soak and wiping it down. We're already looking a whole lot better than we were. But right back here, and some people will say too, like, not really too concerned about the back of the firing pin, but some people just want to get all the carbon buildup off of it, which again, I don't blame you. But having a good lubricant, a cleaning lubricant like this stuff will start to break down everything as it's sitting, which hopefully means you have a pretty easy process as far as just wiping that stuff off and, getting it mostly back to new, right? So there you have that. You can take a little bit better look there, but it's that underside that pretty much bothers most people, that they want to try to get as clean as possible as the camera focuses or has trouble focusing. And with that, you can use this brush, again, the precision brush, and start to knock some of that stuff off of there. You can use a brass brush, which I know I've got a few of those laying around from Otis as well, but they also have these nifty little scrapers and everything too, that you can use, like this little pick. Notice how that's got that little foot there, that makes it kind of easy. I can use that to get deep down in there as well, and just start scraping some of that carbon off of it. Additionally, as I mentioned before, with that bone tool, I can take the firing pin, put this right on through the bone tool, and just start turning. All right, there's an opening right there that is for the firing pin itself, and you'll see it has a little scraper on the underside. And then you start doing that number if you need that extra little oomph to get that off of there, and it looks like it does a pretty decent job. Oh yeah, we're looking much better. Great, and then once you get that to a point that you're pretty happy with, you can, again, if you want to get every little residual piece of carbon off, you can do that. You can take all these different angled scrapers and everything that Otis has to offer and really start tightening that up. But at the same time, y'all, I am not really concerned about what's left on here. I mean, like I said, I'm pretty good with that. Again, if it bothers you and you want to get to it, go for it. All right, now let's go ahead and clean this part up. And just a little bit of CLP. And another pipe cleaner. Just to go right on through there. Like so. Pretty easy, right? Now this might be kind of therapeutic for some people too, after a nice fun day at the range, come home, you start to break down your rifle, clear it, clean it, lubricate it, rack the slide if you've got a pistol, rack the bolt so you hear how smooth and crisp it sounds, time and time again. If you live alone, you can do it as much as you want. If you're married or live with your significant other, do it as often as you possibly can until they tell you to stop because they're getting absolutely driven crazy by it. Or if they're really cool, they'll be like, yeah, that sounds nice. All right, great. Cool. Appreciate you guys being here as I just clean my rifle, by the way, and just hang out with me. It's nice having y'all. Okay. So now we get some more fun stuff here with the bone tool. As you can tell, this thing is absolutely covered. I'm just going to go ahead and wipe it off real quick. Set this off to the side, just so I've got a little bit more room to work here. And again, you've got these little gas ring seals. You want to make sure that they're freely moving, that they're not caught up on one another, or even worse, not present. Okay, a lot of buildup on this guy. So, this tool might help us out with that, the bone tool. All right, we're going to go ahead and grab this guy. And you'll notice we used this end in the bolt carrier. Now we're going to use this end for the actual bolt. We're going to go and put that in there. Oh yeah. And just back and forth, back and forth. And it's scraping a lot of that carbon off. All right. Yep, starting to get some of that stuff off of there. Now the bone tool, it does a great job at knocking off the surface, right? But at the end of it all, I still probably want something a little bit more too. So there you have it. It's a little bit more back and forth there. Oh yeah. It's scraping some of that stuff off of there. Now, if you are like me when it comes to this, keep in mind, this is the rear of the bolt. It gets pretty dirty. How important is it that this buildup that's right back here, it's honestly, this doesn't really affect the function of the gun. It's more of just a nitpicky thing to take all of this and just get it off of there. So again, to help go ahead and start breaking down a lot of that buildup, liberally apply more of the CLP. And then with this, we do have a bolt scraper, which is kind of nice. That's built into this guy here, one of the scrapers that comes from Otis. So I'm just going to take the scraper here and I'm just going to start, well, pretty much doing everything I can to scrape some of that carbon off of here. It's kind of nice. What's kind of nifty too about one of the scrapers, it has this little bolt cutout. You can really get in there and kind of like do everything you can to use the tools at hand that's provided even on these different scrapers to help try to get that carbon built off. Additionally, grabbing one of the different brushes that's out there, like the brass brush, will definitely help in this scenario too. Again, just back and forth until you get that pretty much where you want it. You can keep going back through with the scraper too. Now once you get the bolt pretty much where you want it to be, you can take it a step further and actually remove the extractor and clean the spring and everything that's underneath there, which again is this little open area here. How necessary is that? Not all that necessary. But if it's something you want to do, I can go ahead and show you how to do that really quick. Now, some people might not recommend this, but the firing pin is actually a pretty good tool for this. I can take that little retaining pin, the extractor retaining pin, I can actually punch that out with the firing pin, or at least get it started. Now from there, you can either, depending on what kind of tension it's under, you can either grab some pliers or something like that to pull that out. Keep in mind, this is under spring tension, okay? So you might have to either push down a little bit to grab that. I might need to grab some pliers for that. Okay. There we go. Now that that guy's out of there, I can go ahead and remove the extractor. Now there's that little seal and spring. You want to keep all that together. All right. So usually I'll just place my thumb on that and just wipe it down. Looks pretty good. Just want to make sure there's nothing up underneath here. Any type of debris or carbon buildup that could, you know, that might interfere with actually grabbing that spent case and then extracting that. So you just want to make sure that that's nice and clean there. All right. So if you are going to disassemble it, then clean it right. All right, now you've got that opening there that gets you into the bolt itself. Just wipe that out best that you can. That's pretty good when one of these brushes come into play. Allows you to scrub that, clean that pretty meticulously. I'd say I feel pretty good about that. Wipe it down one more time and then we'll reinstall the extractor. Then we're pretty much done with the bolt and bolt carrier, and we can reassemble it, get it ready to be reassembled back into the firearm once we're done with the upper and lower receiver. Okay, great. So remember how the extractor went on before? You've got all these different, you know, that tiny little pin, which hopefully you didn't lose, needs to line back up, right? So we're going to drop that extractor where it goes. Before I do that though, I'm just going to wipe down the that little retaining pin. Get any buildup off of it. And then I'm just going to look through, make sure I see daylight there. And I do. And then I'm just going to go ahead and pop that pin back on through. And it can be a little tricky. You might need to tap it a little bit, make it go home. All right, mostly through. You can see the pin still kind of sticking out there right here. So I just want to, first of all, have that come into focus so you guys can see it a little bit. And I'm just going to grab one of these smaller punches. Let's go for the 3/32. Thank you. And push it the rest of the way through. Being a stubborn little thing. There we go. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and let's reassemble our bolt and bolt carrier. Okay, starting off with the bolt carrier, let's go ahead and grab the bolt. Keep in mind too, some people might have a hard time remembering what's the correct process or correct orientation for the bolt when trying to put the pins back in and a lot of type of fun stuff, right? Just remember that if it's a right-handed AR, which most of them are, then you want the extractor to be on the right side. So you'll notice when you look through, you'll have this oriented. You can kind of see that rotating there. You ultimately want in this opening here, you can look down and see through the bolt itself to the inside and other side of the bolt carrier, and the extractor to be on the right side. This pin's only going to go in one way. So if you don't have the extractor on the right side, it won't fit. But then once you know you've got it oriented correctly, you can go ahead and feed that on through. Just like so. Great. Then you rotate it 90 degrees, so it should look something like that there. Okay. Once that's done, you're able to take your firing pin. Some people drop it straight from the top. I was able to get it the first time, but sometimes you can also just kind of go in from the bottom to angle it a little bit, and then you can drop it on in there. But if you just have it completely vertical, you can drop it through the top like you saw me do right there, which I usually don't get on the first try. From there, the cotter pin is next. Now this one might be kind of tricky for quite a few people, and this is what retains the firing pin. Especially if the cotter pin itself is nice and widely opened here. That can be kind of problematic and just a pain to deal with. And what I'm talking about, this is 2 prongs, and you see that they're slightly opened right there. That's not that big of a deal, but when they're further apart, oh, that gets frustrating. And you just kind of have to rotate, push to get ultimately that one prong started, and then the second one kind of just feeding around and closing before it can close the gap and feed all the way through to this side of the bolt carrier. All right, there's a little opening there you might be able to see. So I'm going to go ahead and just place that on through, and again just a little back and forth, and now that cotter is down into the bolt carrier, and the bolt carrier group is now reassembled. Do a quick little check like that to make sure that the bolt is freely moving, there's nothing hindering it, and now you can set it aside. Great. Charging handle and the bolt carrier group are now done. While we're on upper receiver parts and components, let's continue on with the upper receiver. One thing I like to do personally is go ahead and remove any optics or anything. You can wipe these down as well, which is probably not a bad idea to do, especially since mine had sand all over it not too long ago. And again, taking my microfiber and just doing a quick little wipe down, but really I'm just knocking all the excess and crap off of it. Typically I'd also remove all of the other components like the D-ball and the Surefire here, but quite frankly I don't feel like doing all that. So especially since I've got my Driven Arms Co. dangler and the cables routed underneath my hot pocket here, so I just don't feel like taking all that out and doing that, so I'm not going to. All right. Cool, and that's just the external. I can pop the dust cover down from the inside, and I can wipe down the other side of the dust cover and just make sure I've got, again, all of that excess crap removed from the outside. Ooh, there's a lot of buildup in there as I am looking. You might be able to see as well, oh, just how nasty that is, where some of that light is hitting. Yeah. All right, pinky before. Oh, pinky after. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. Now, something I could do is go ahead and just take my brush or rag, whatever. Brush probably not a bad idea, but I'm actually just going to take my rag and see if I can just go ahead and get a majority of all that excess is kind of wiped up. I mean, look at that, right? So let's just go ahead and do that. Just knock out all those easy to reach spots first. Now, something too that I like to do, take the the softer side of the microfiber. You can choose to close the dust cover or not if you want. I do in this case, and I'll just lay it over. Take my my brush, and then just really use the microfiber and the brush to just kind of get in there and get those harder to reach places and just scrub back and forth. You're not going to hurt anything underneath there. Obviously, you don't want to apply a lot of pressure where the gas tube is, which is more forward of the upper receiver and closer to the barrel. But outside of that, scrub away, and even still scrub on top of that gas tube or the underside of the gas tube. But there you have it. Okay, this is also where pipe cleaners come into play. If you wanted to get on the, this is really nitpicky, but if you wanted to clean on the top side of the gas tube, right now I'm looking at the bottom of the gas tube, the top side, you can take this, loop this, let's see if I can show this as good as I can on camera. You'll see that the gas tube that's in there right now. Ultimately what I want to do is take this, apply that on, make it a little bit skinnier. And now you'll see I kind of got it wrapped around the gas tube, and I can just kind of go back and forth with that. I'm pretty much cleaning the top side of the upper receiver and the top side of the gas tube by applying downward and upward pressure. And yeah, you can see you'll get quite a bit of crap there. All right, again, that's pretty nitpicky, but why not, right? And the easiest way to clean your rifle if you're in the military is leave about 20 to 50 bucks depending on your armor and the pistol grip, and have a good day. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue on now. So, yep, I'm going to go, you guys already know, I'm going to take my CLP and just go nuts all up inside there. All right, clean off the brush end and just start brushing all that off. Now that I've taken pretty much a lot of the excess stuff off, I just want to get in there and really just scrub and apply that as anywhere as possible. Also, as I turn my upper, I see all this sand built up right underneath the dust cover. Yeah, I'm definitely going to take that and wipe that out. Then I'll use the brush here in a minute. Actually, while I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead and get one of the precision brushes here. All right, I'm happy with that. Okay, all right, again, we can kind of go ahead and see what I've removed from there. Good. Okay, great. I'll take that rag back on through. Now that I've got the CLP pretty much everywhere on the inside of the upper receiver, and just start scrubbing again. Then we're going to get into the fun part, which is the chamber itself, right? So right underneath here, this is where the bolt interfaces. So it'll be like that, but right in here, that's going to be nice. And I'll show you how I get that done too. Okay. But I'm going to keep rubbing away with the microfiber, all the little grooves that I can get into. Much better. All right, it doesn't take much. It just takes some good CLP and grease from the elbow. You know? All right. Now here comes the fun part. This is when I like to use this tool here. All right, this from Otis is probably one of the best little freaking things that you can use. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and unscrew right now the scraper that's attached right there. I'm gonna set that to the side. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my chamber brush. I'm gonna thread that on in. This is gonna do a really good job at breaking up a lot of that crap that's in there. What you do, insert this in through the rear. It's going to have a really good alignment because this is going to index in the upper receiver, and then you just start rotating. And you'll see that that brush is getting right up into that chamber, and it's breaking free all of that carbon built up nastiness in there. And then back that out. Yeah, that's going to be pretty gross. Good. Love it. Then just pop that on off. Next, I'm going to use this piece. This is the metal scraper here. Anything that might be left over that needs to get scraped on out of there, this will get it. So again, we're going to go and slide that right on through. And we're just going to start spinning. Applying pressure, spinning. A little bit back and forth, and that should be scraping a lot of that metal out of there. Okay, once we're done with that, go ahead and remove that piece and replace it with one of these cleaning pads. I'm going to try only to touch one so the other ones stay nice and clean. That's going to screw right on through. All right, make that nice and tight. Before. Let's go on through here. Cleaning that out. Getting nice. Might have to use a couple of these pads, we'll see. Yeah, I did a good job. Now you can see where those raised edges really got a lot of that crap off of there, right? Great, so far so good. Clean that up again. A little bit of time to really get in there and clean that chamber. And that's okay. You know, there's going to be quite a bit of back and forth between brushes and everything to get that to where it's actually like, you know, clean. All right, especially that little groove that's just right after that little star cluster, and then right in there. That's one of the most difficult parts to clean. And that's where, you know, Q-tips, you can go in at a different angle. I also like to take the bigger brush and try to get right up in there the best that I can. Yeah, and after some back and forth, going and going, it'll start to lighten up on you. It can't stay there forever, right, as long as you keep doing it. And like I said, you can go back and forth between knocking some of that carbon off, some of that buildup, and then wiping it down, more with the chamber brush, more with the pads, just a little bit of back and forth. Of course, there's different cleaning kits too that come with like the metal handles. You can use like a T-handle. This thing's just kind of an all-in-one, which makes life pretty easy. Again, you can see I got that thing really in there. Start scraping away as much as possible. Good. I'm definitely liking the improvement we're making on the upper receiver now because, man, this stuff's just nasty. So then once you get that chamber pretty much where you want it, you are all set to go ahead and start moving to the bore. All right. Definitely happier with that than what we were at before. All right. So now we can go ahead and start moving down the bore like I said. So I'm going to grab this little guy here. And you notice you'll have a thicker end on the ripcord and then a thinner end. Obviously you want to feed the thinner end first, okay? Now you can use different attachments and so on and so forth to kind of help you pull this guy through, but I found quite honestly that it works just fine. You can go all the way through the upper receiver or just through the bottom. Personally, I'll just go to the bottom, slip that on through, and you'll see it come out the muzzle end here, and then that thicker part will hit. And that's when you're going to start hitting some resistance and where you might want that T-handle or whatever it might be to pull through. Personally, I just wrap it up like this. Vertical grip is a nice little piece there. Pull that on through, and then I can go ahead and take a look down the barrel, usually at a light, and see if I have any obstructions or anything like that. And that looks pretty freaking good to me. All right, great. So, and like I said, these products are great. Usually just one pull through will grab pretty much all of like any type of like copper that might be left in there from a copper jacket, which hopefully you don't have. And then of course any carbon and lead buildup. All right. Perfect. Once you're done with that, you can set it to the side. Just because, like I said, I shoot this suppressed quite a bit, so I want to make sure the threads on the QD muzzle device are nice and clean, lubricated, try to prevent any type of carbon lock. Again, not a whole lot I'm going to do here other than just brush off the muzzle device. And like I said, you can remove any type of attachments, lights, lasers, whatever you might have on there that might obstruct you getting to your muzzle device. But there's enough gap between my light and muzzle device that make getting to it pretty easy. And then you can just wipe it on down with a rag. And you're pretty much all set on that front. And that's really all I do for my muzzle devices. You can go a little bit further, clean out the internals and everything, but honestly guys, I'm not too worried about it on mine. Alright, great. Cool. Looks like the upper receiver is pretty much done in my book. I'll do kind of like one more little pass through on every little area just to be sure, and then I'm going to go ahead and start lubricating those parts where I know I'm going to have metal on metal contact, and make sure that everything's nice, gliding smoothly together, reducing the amount of wear I have on the upper receiver and the bolt carrier. You know, so just doing all that type of fun little stuff. All right. Great. Again, I'm not seeing a lot of like particles of foreign debris or anything like that. Okay. Great. Okay. Now, what I'll do, I'm just going to go ahead, again, the bolt carrier is really the only thing. You don't need to go crazy on lubrication. I'm just going to give a nice, decent coat all around on this guy. Because again, we're going to have metal on metal contact. You can see where it's wearing, right? Where you have that metal on metal contact also. And so you can apply a little bit more if you want to in that area, but honestly, just a nice medium to light coat for me, especially right here on the bolt as well, because it's going to be reciprocating back and forth into the bolt carrier. And just for fun too, I'll put some right back down here where all that rides together, just like so. All right, once I got a decent coat there, I'll go ahead and grab my charging handle, and I'm going to put a nice light coat on it as well. Again, just a little bit of everywhere. You know, underside doesn't really matter that much, but I'll do a little light coat there, really just protecting the finish. And then again, you can already see where it's making contact on the upper receiver. It's mostly going to be obviously the outside of the charging handle, and that's what you're going to want to coat the most. Again, it's not going to take a whole lot, just like that there. Boom. And the reason I kind of like the coat like right in here too, you'll notice that's where you get most of your buildup, because that's where the gas tube and the bolt carrier are interfacing, is right in here. So you're going to have a lot of that carbon built up. It's not bad to go ahead and just have that pretty well oiled as well, because it just makes the cleaning process a little bit easier. You've already got that CLP in there that's collecting a lot of that buildup and helping to break it down, so it becomes a little bit easier just to wipe away a little bit later on. All right, let's go ahead and start the charging handle. And then grab your bolt carrier, make sure the bolt is out. And you got enough surface area on the charging handle for the bolt carrier to ride in. And then just push that guy forward. And that is one pretty clean upper receiver and components. Great. Now we can go ahead and set this guy to the side and get to the lower receiver. So the lower receiver, as I mentioned earlier, contains your buffer spring, your trigger housing, and all your controls, right? And of course, obviously the mag well. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean off the area in which the takedown pins sit and ride. I'm just going to do that, and then I'm going to close them. And there's a reason why I do that. Because one, I've met me, and I just don't want anything to happen such as bending them because I've dropped my lower or something like that. So just having them stowed and home is the best way to keep them safe. All right. Now, granted, they are thicker pieces of metal, so it would take a lot to try to kind of bend them, but you know, it's just a preventative and it's easy enough to do. Next thing I'm going to do, take my brush. I'm just going to start knocking off all of the stuff I see that's just already on this little receiver. I mean, I've got sand and everything. You know, you can kind of see it built up right there on the safety, right? It's pretty nasty. So I'm just going to take my brush, knock all that off of there. All over the controls, the hammer, anywhere and everywhere I just see dirt, grime, whatever it might be. Good enough. Go back over it with the cloth, wipe it all down. And those of you that might be wondering what pistol grip this is the Driven Arms Co. It's like their shadow grip. It's pretty freaking cool. I really, very ergonomic, very comfortable. Really like that grip. All right. And because it's easy, I'm just going to go ahead and just wipe out the mag well. You noticed, I think it was the intro to my reload video, which was episode 2, the episode just before this one. I was using this gun right after I did a lot of the dirt work with it, and when I went to go reload, the magazine didn't freely drop. That's because I had grains of sand and everything else here in the mag well. So I had to rip that mag out before inserting the fresh mag. Now granted, if that happens during a drill, do exactly as I did there and just continue on with the drill. Get that mag out, insert the fresh mag, continue shooting. So you really want to make sure that the mag well is clean because you want your mags to drop free, right? So I've got an empty magazine over here. And of course, it's not going to drop free right now because there's nothing applying pressure like the upper receiver would be, right? But it's a kind of a cool cutaway to show you all the internals and how everything works. So for instance, notice where the bolt catch is right now. It is in the locked position. And that just means, well, it's sitting on, right now, the follower. So let's see if I can get that shown to you guys a little bit better. All right, so notice, focus, hello. Notice that the bolt catch right here, you see right here, this piece is sitting on the follower. So therefore it's up. Now if there was a round there, notice what happens to the bolt catch, right? So that's that last round bolt hold open feature coming into play here. Okay, so let's say I had that bolt, you know, the upper receiver applying pressure here. Great, that means it's dropping free now, right? And that's exactly what we want. As I mentioned before, what you don't want to have happen is you apply pressure on the mag release and it doesn't drop. It's not going to do it right now because, well, there's nothing to apply that downward pressure. All right, great. Set it off to the side for now. Yeah, and once you got, you know, the external and the opening, the larger opening areas, don't really need you in my way anymore. Once I have all that pretty well wiped down, we'll start getting into the trigger and the buffer and buffer spring. We can actually just go ahead and start wiping off the face of the buffer that you see there. I'm going to go ahead and remove the buffer and buffer spring, and I'm going to show you guys how I like to do that. I do have a H buffer in there, by the way, so it's just slightly heavier than your standard buffer. Okay. All right, great. I think I'm getting carried away with all the wiping down here, but every time I take another look, I'm like, golly, this thing's dirty. All right, let's go ahead and remove that buffer and buffer spring. Just take, you know, pretty much a punch, a brush, whatever, and you're just gonna push down on your detent that's holding the buffer in right here. Right, might be a little difficult to see, but yeah, I'm just gonna apply downward pressure on there. You'll notice this is gonna come flying forward. Just like that. Pull that guy on out, and now you've got just a empty buffer tube. Okay. Set that down to the side. Actually, one thing I can do, and this is something that I do apply CLP just on the inside of the buffer, and that's why I get a nice silent-esque pull on when I charge the gun. You know, I don't have this spring compressing and then rubbing up against the metal tube and causing a lot of sound, right? I like applying just enough, I don't know, cleaner or CLP down in here, so that way, you know, it's metal on metal contact and it's a little bit quieter than just like that scrunching spring sound that you can sometimes hear when you shoot a gun or shoot an AR. So there you go. I'll let that do its job on in there. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and take a look. Clean hand, dirty hand. It doesn't look too bad there. It's actually not bad. Okay, but you'll see that we do have on the buffer itself, pretty dirty. You can just go ahead, usually I just twist and pull. There you go. Now the buffer is out, and I can just go ahead and wipe that down. This part's actually kind of easy, which is nice, because the buffer doesn't really retain any type of carbon buildup. Okay, set that off to the side. Next, buffer spring. Not a whole lot I do here, guys. I'll take this, just go around and around and around and around and around. Like I said, I don't get really into it. I just want to make sure that it's nice, clean, free from any type of carbon. And you know, you can take, you know, like a 12 gauge, you know, bore brush and try to, you know, scrub the inside of the spring. But guys, it's really not that necessary, right? You can take rags, go feed them all the way through, but you know, it's really not that necessary. Even doing something as simple as this, where you just take the rag and wrap it, spin it, and it'll start feeding all the way up through there. Not really worried about it. All right, great. Set that to the side once you're done with that. Next, I'm just going to wipe off with the rag. You've got these threads here that the buffer tube threads into on the lower receiver. I'm just going to wipe those down. Those exposed threads, because those can hold carbon, grit, debris, whatever it might be. All right, next, I'm going to move a little bit more forward. I'm actually going to pop this rear takedown pin out, and I'm just going to clean that shelf that's sitting right in here. Okay. Depending on your lower receiver, you might have what's called a high shelf or a low shelf. If you've got a low shelf, good for you. You can just use whatever. Again, you can use the brush and rag trick, getting down there and cleaning as well. There you have it. Now I'm going to put my lower on fire here, and then I'm just going to take just this tip of the rag here, and I'm just going to let the hammer go forward, just so it's not metal resting on metal that's under spring tension. It's not really a big deal as long as you don't let the hammer just fly forward and hit the lower receiver. The likelihood of you cracking your lower, breaking your hammer, probably not high, honestly, but you just want to take care of your stuff, right? So why abuse it? You know, unless you're abusing it in training, then that's fine. And then I'm just going to take my rag and I'm just really going to wipe down in there. I'm going to take a bit of my CLP and drop it right into the lower receiver as well. And just let that get all in there, as you see. And then I'm just going to take the rag again, just wipe away. Like I said, if you really want to do a deep cleaning, you can remove your trigger assembly. I am not going to today, because I just want to do a basic cleaning, good field stripping and basic cleaning. Once we get into the disassembly of the lower receiver, we can do that even in a build series. I think would be pretty fun, where we build out a rifle, take it to the range, shoot it, all that type of stuff, because I think quite a few of you might be interested in that as well. Q-tips would be good to get down in here as well. I'm going to go ahead and bring the pipe cleaners back out, because it can kind of maneuver itself. You know, if I'm going to pull this guy back out, just let that come forward. And this, what's cool is the pipe cleaner can kind of maneuver itself and get into those little bit harder to reach areas there where the trigger is. And so you can kind of just go back and forth with it and really get in there. All right. It's a little, I'm not a surgeon here, so trying to watch myself on a screen isn't exactly the best thing to do. But watching from this angle where I can actually see, yeah, a little bit easier. And you can just see the little springs in there and just want to wipe those down. You just don't want any grit, any crap in there, that's all. Okay. All right. Once you're done with that, you know, wiping everything down, taking a look, make sure you just don't have any buildup. Again, you know, letting this go forward. You know, you got your disconnector in there, just getting up underneath that little hook, making sure you don't have any buildup. Again, how likely is it that that would cause a malfunction? Yeah, probably not. But after running and running and running and running, it's good just to go ahead and just give that a little bit of love, right? And just clean all that out. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with all of that. Okay. For not removing the trigger assembly. Now, when you do remove your trigger assembly, you'll notice that you've got buildup on the wall, or I should say just on the floor of the lower receiver here, right where the trigger would be sitting, and that can be that can build up over time. I've never seen a malfunction be caused from it, but not a bad thing just to clean up. All right. Okay, so now to get that nice quiet spring action of the buffer and buffer spring, I'm going to take some of the dry lube here, pop that off, and all I'm going to do is just shoot that down into there. That's it. Doesn't take a whole lot. Now I'm just going to go ahead and reassemble the buffer and buffer spring. Pop that right back on in there. Okay, good. Now, I already did a pretty good job lubricating the trigger and trigger assembly a little bit earlier when I was wiping everything out. But it's not bad, too, just to go ahead and take some of that in there and just a couple of sprays. That'll do ya. Oh, yeah, that smells like I'll be hallucinating if I don't do that in a well-ventilated area. Okay. From here, I'm going to go ahead, open up my front takedown pin, and let's reassemble the firearm. Perfect. Upper and lower are mated. Good. That feels like a much cleaner firearm now. Not done yet though, because short of just utilizing a rag, something else I want to do just to protect the firearm a little bit more, I'm going to take a couple of these firearm wipes, probably just one of these, and just give the outside of the gun a decent little wipe. And this is just going to protect it. Again, I'm just knocking back any of that stuff that might be on here. This will allow me to get kind of into the nooks and crannies of things. Anywhere too where the, for instance, like on my battle belt, I noticed, you won't see it on the Mark 18, it's not facing the right way, but usually I have the gun slung so it sits like this. But if I'm running all sorts of different drills and my belt, is sitting about right here, so pretty much that mag well is getting pretty caught, on that metal to metal contact, and really start to scratch this area of the gun. So just making sure that that stays clean, because you don't want any rust happening or anything like that, is a good idea. And you'll just see me kind of do a light wipe like this on pretty much all over the firearm. Again, this is just pretty much my final little step of just making sure I've got a nice clean and protected, clean, lubricated, protected firearm. Okay. Much better. Now, when it comes to actually lubricating the firearm, outside of cleaning, let's say you're, done at the day at the range and you're just looking to, or you're actually in the middle of like some downtime, you want to make sure that your gun stays nice and lubricated. Right in here, you can choose to shotgun breakdown your rifle if you want, and you can pop the bolt carrier out, but typically I'll keep it all together and just make sure I'm getting lubrication right in here. A couple little drops. If you've got like the spray stuff, that's great. You can really just spray that on in there. That's awesome. And then right here on the charging handle, and again, I just kind of wipe that down. Not much more I really am concerned about. You can go with a little bit more right into the chamber, right the difficult part to clean. And we already talked about why I like to lubricate those difficult parts. Helps kind of the cleaning process a little bit later on. And then the only other place that I really add some lubrication is the underside of the bolt carrier, because remember, that's where it's actually riding on the lower receiver, or I'm sorry, the upper receiver. And you just want to make sure that, you know, the ammo that it's picking up and everything, it's all gliding over smoothly and stuff like that. And then we do our favorite thing, which is just rack it, get it all well and mated, and that's that. Now we've got a pretty decent clean gun. We can go ahead and function check it. Again, we're clear. We go ahead, firearm on safe, pull the trigger, nothing should happen. Flip it to semi and keep held to the rear. Hammer drops, cycle it, let it go. We should hear an audible thump. Perfect. Put it back on safe. And now we've got ourselves an operable and clean firearm. All right. So this was a down and dirty little breakthrough of cleaning. You know, so again, this just does a really good job at overall cleaning and protecting the firearm, wiping down with the wipes, the firearm wipes. But then I like to use wipes for myself. After I'm all said and done, I've put away pretty much all the materials that have come in contact with carbon and everything else that I need to put away. What I like to do is utilize these hand cleaning wipes, these lead removal wipes. They remove lead and other materials from your hands that Otis offers. And all that allows me to do is just, like I said, remove those materials. And it just does a good job at removing all that crap before I actually wash my hands and then, you know, kiss my fiance or hold my babies. I just don't want them to come in contact with any of these toxic materials, right? Or me, for, you know, that's why I think we're starting to see so many higher levels of lead in service members, especially since we're shooting suppressed a lot more now. So there you have it. But yeah, I'll just sit there and wipe my hands off, which I got to do all over again because I got to put all this stuff away. So there you have it. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope this was educational and at least somewhat entertaining. I know how-to videos when it comes to cleaning your firearm can be a little boring, but you know, it is what it is. It's definitely a significant process or significant step in the process of firearm ownership. So get out there and clean your guns. I should probably take my own advice and do just that also. Thanks again to Otis. Thanks again to my friends over at Monadnock Firearms. God bless you guys, and we'll see you next time right here.